Hello, I'm Keith Harrison. A very happy new year to you and welcome to a brand new decade with FCN Europe. The trade unions have informed Ford management of the results of their ballot held on December the 18th, which revealed that a majority was prepared to take industrial action. However, on January the 10th, both sides are meeting to try to avoid a dispute. 1990 will see new offerings throughout the Ford model range, beginning this month with the launch of the luxury Granada Notchback. The Notchback body style accounts for 70% of European large car sales. So despite the Granada's immense success, this addition to the range has been essential. Although the new car has a greater luggage capacity, it's less than a centimetre longer than the hatchback. But the hatchback hasn't been left out, getting some significant improvements of its own, including colour-keyed bumpers. The winner of the 1990 European Car of the Year award is Citroën's top-of-the-range XM. Ford's new Fiesta was beaten into third place, just 1 point behind the exclusive Mercedes 500 SL. Ford's new partner Jaguar recently introduced its latest model. It's the XJ220. The car was originally showcased at the Birmingham Motor Show in 1988 and won itself immense acclaim. Despite press and public enthusiasm, the project had an uncertain future in the troubled Jaguar organisation. Now Jaguar's long-term future has been secured with the announcement that Ford has taken a majority shareholding in the company. The XJ220 will prove that classic sports cars don't have to come from Modena or Turin. By the way, Elton John and Mick Jagger are just two of the 1,000 hopeful customers reported to have put down a total of £50 million in deposits for this limited edition supercar. I'm going to try and get one for the producer, which sounds like a fair swap to me. Anyway, the success of any new car rests on its quality of manufacture. So quality control is essential. Susie Grant visited the Dagenham engine plant to follow the quality control process behind Ford's products.
This new double overhead cam 2-litre petrol engine now powers some of the most successful cars in the Ford range. The engine is made at Dagenham, and we asked some of the production team about their approach to quality.
If I bought a Ford car and I was going down the M1 and all of a sudden my camshaft failed, that would probably be the end of me buying another Ford motor car.
Today, leading-edge computer technology puts all Ford camshafts through a rigorous inspection. But it's still people that remain the surest guarantee of quality.
As a team, we're now getting the best quality I think that we've ever achieved in the Ford Motor Company. Over the last 10 years, I can honestly say the quality coming off at the end of my line is 100%.
We work as a team, and we check the shafts that we make. Every operation that we make, we normally check the shafts. So if there's a defect coming from a certain machine, we'll find it straight away where it's coming from, and we'll stop it.
Independent tests on the key components are backed up by running tests on the assembled engine in a new hot test facility. Hot test engineer Brian Johnson.
It's a customer we're selling to, and if he's not happy with our product, then the Ford Motor Company's got a problem.
The DOHC, like all modern engines, must conform to the government's increasingly tough emission regulations. This month, FCN takes a look at those regulations and the vehicle technology that will actually meet them.
I want to be blonde. I want to be out late. I want to be brown. I want to be green.
Advertisements like this reveal our growing interest in the environment. But how is Ford reacting to these so-called green issues?
I think Ford still has some ground to catch up here. It had chosen as its way forward for the future on the environmental front lean burn engines, essentially, and a few years ago was very much the main champion in Europe of lean burn technology. It's been overtaken by legislation and waves of complaint, I guess, from consumers and the environmental lobby in Europe. And that means that the only way that legislation can be met in the early 90s is through catalyst-equipped cars rather than lean burn engines.
How far Ford has already gone was revealed on December the 5th, when 6 members of Parliament, all from the Common Select Committee on the Environment, visited the emissions laboratory at the Dunton Engineering Centre. FCN News accompanied the tour, and I asked the laboratory supervisor about Ford's work here. John Flint.
We're responsible for emissions testing, exhaust emissions testing, and fuel economy testing, cars and light trucks. The laboratory is probably the best in Europe and one of the best in the world. Over the last 5 years, we've spent some $16 million in here, bringing the facilities up to a level to support the development of catalysts and the implementation of the low emissions policy.
With low emissions policy in Europe getting tougher, labs like this are essential. And right now, not even these MPs know just what the new standards will be. For a manufacturer like Ford, which plans years in advance, this is a worrying prospect. Regulations Planning Officer Mike Hawkins.
Well, from the 31st of December 1992, everything we make will have to, we presume, will have to conform with a new directive, which directive does not yet exist, and the levels which will be required of us, we do not yet know.
If the MPs don't even know what the levels will be, why bother to invite them round our facilities?
Well, they were members of Parliament, members of the Select Committee on the Environment, and I guess it was education. The idea being that when they stand up and talk about particularly exhaust emission matters in Parliament, they have some understanding of what lies behind that simple phrase. The amount of investment, the amount of resource, the amount of work, the cost.
In the early 80s, Sir Clive Sinclair was ridiculed after the failure of his electrically powered C5. But in these environmentally aware times, will electric vehicles finally have their day?
It's very difficult to see the sort of traveller whopping up and down the M1 in an electric car. It isn't going to happen. Maybe a purely urban job is more feasible, but I'm not sure that's what people want.
Neither do people want the exhaust gases from dense urban traffic. One technical solution is to equip these cars with a catalytic converter. And at Dunton, they've been working on the CAT since the early 80s. So just what is it?
The purpose is, as with all catalysts, it promotes a chemical reaction without itself changing state, so that it causes the various pollutants in the exhaust gas to be converted to relatively harmless CO2, nitrogen and water.
This emissions laboratory is not simply a reaction to the 1990s obsession with green issues. It's part of our company's continuing commitment to the environment, and these MPs were obviously impressed.
I think Fords have a sound record on this sort of area, on research and on encouraging the production of better, cleaner, more efficient vehicles, and I hope they'll do so for many years to come. It's a very impressive area to visit.
And of course, we'll be taking a closer look at the three-way catalytic converter in a future programme. Still on an environmental theme, December saw the Cologne finals of the Ford European Conservation Awards. Following last month's report on the British awards ceremony, Susie Grant now reports from Cologne.
Finalists from 13 European countries met in Cologne in early December at the Ford European Conservation Awards ceremony. The Austrians were the overall winners, but they weren't the only satisfied competitors. British entrant Lawrence Alderson.
I think the feeling and atmosphere within the whole event has been marvellous. Great feeling of rapport, comradeship between all the delegates from all the different countries. I really enjoyed it. Very well worthwhile.
After the ceremony, FCN travelled to the Austrian Alps to see how their locally organised scheme turns solar energy into household hot water. Young Heidi enjoys the benefits of solar-heated hot water 365 days a year. But those wintry mountains seem an unlikely sun trap, so why here?
And we have to import a lot of energy, and we have enough sun here in Austria, so we could use the power of the sun to produce part of the energy. The important thing is that really everyone can do our assembling system himself, and that's what we try to tell the people. So in our group there are different kind of people working: teachers, farmers, even university professors.
Bless her. The environment will certainly be one of the key issues of the 90s, and FCN will be following this sensitive area very, very closely. Well, as the sun sinks in the west on FCN, our own solar panels are about to be switched off. So thanks ever so much for joining us, and we'll see you same place, same time next month. Until then, bye-bye.